you can't hear me at any point in time, just please tell me to raise my voice. I know it's a bit loud out here. First, thank you everybody for coming out on this hot afternoon. My name is Mark Winston Griffith, and I'm a practicing journalist, but that's not the capacity I'm in here today with you. I'm here as a longtime community organizer and someone who cares deeply about this city, and I know the people standing around me feel the same way. I've been working in policy and politics and social justice for, almost 40 years. And again, I'm going to be showing my age here, but I remember witnessing my first charter revision in 1989. It replaced the Board of Estimate, it gave us 51 council members, and it gave us the public advocate. It was a dignified, thoughtful process. It was a complex process. It was a process that lasted probably more than 6 months or so, maybe 9 months. The city charter is our constitution, and altering it is an almost sacred process. Charter revision has the ability to change the very structure and rule of government and remap the balance of institutional power in our city. So we stand before you as a unified group of advocates, organizers, legal experts and advocates, and champions of good government to expose the current charter revision process as undemocratic, as untransparent, and as a mayoral power grab, and has been anything but dignified and well considered.
That's right.
So let's just go through the facts, all right? Because when you just lay out the facts, the absurdity sort of speaks for itself. So the commission that we're talking about here was established on May 21st, 2024. It held its first public input session on June the 5th, and on June 24th, it issued a preliminary report that made a series of recommendations addressing, I've got quotes up here in the air, fiscal responsibility, public safety, minority and women-owned businesses, modernization, and quote-unquote other proposals. The public hearing process is scheduled to conclude on July 12th, and the committee must submit any measures to be placed on the ballot by August 5th. All right? So just listen to that timeline. It's ridiculous. And let's just state the obvious, an open secret that everybody knows. This process is actually meant to preempt the City Council advice and consent ballot measure that passed 46 out of 51 votes in the City Council and survived easily a mayoral veto. The appointees to the commission are not broadly interested in a representative group of city builders. Now, I've got nothing against them personally. I imagine they're all people of respect, integrity, but at the end of the day, they're mayoral loyalists, and they are there to do his bidding and nobody else's. Certainly not the public. This process has been almost comically rushed. The hearings have been poorly attended by both the commissioners themselves and the general public. And no one can quite understand who and what informed the preliminary report that was recently released. To imagine that the results of the process could possibly make it into our charter is downright scary. So, we call on the mayor and the commission to refrain from placing anything on the ballot, and for the public to stand in the way of this cynical abuse of leadership.
That's right.
All right, so now we're going to hear from advocates and experts who care deeply about the city and its system of governance, and we're going to start with Janda Williams, who's the Director of Organizing of Vocal New York.
Thank you so much. Again, my name is Janda James Williams. I use he, him pronouns. And I'm here not to talk about all of the legal complexity of our city charter, as was just said, of essentially our constitution in New York City. I am simply here to remind all of us that democracy is not simply a document. It is a set of principles, a set of practices that honors the agency of New Yorkers, that honors the agency of New Yorkers who elected our city council body. The mayor has moved in lockstep in a way to diminish the power of democratically elected council members. And not to do so in a way to protect our rights, not to do so in a way to facilitate our communities being more taken care of or better taken care of, but instead to undermine the interests of our communities. I want to name right now, when we're talking about democracy in the United States, it is incredibly fragile. Mayor Eric Adams has committed himself to building out the infrastructure, the practices, the policies, the agencies, the ideas that facilitate authoritarianism, like the Cop City being planned for Queens. We were reminded of the mayor's anti-democratic posture just a few weeks ago when he threatened the city council with having to let his office know that they were going to meet with the agency heads. That does not make any sense. Our council is a body organized to co-govern with the mayor, to co-govern with the people of New York City. The mayor has demonstrated that he cannot be trusted with something as volatile as amending the city charter. And for our organization, Vocal New York, a statewide grassroots membership organization building power to end AIDS, homelessness, mass incarceration, the drug war, and to build an economy and democracy that works for low-income working class people, we face even greater risk of violence by this mayor's move. So right now we're standing with our pro-democracy advocates, with our racial justice advocates. Vocal New York member leaders are in this space right now because we know that this kind of practice is a Trojan horse that promises future devastation and violence to our people. And if it's not clear, our work is not simply about improving the quality of life for our membership across the 5 boroughs. It is about preventing premature death. And the mayor has shown us that he is not on our side. But of course, there is always a pathway to redemption, even for someone like Mayor Eric Adams. And that pathway is to do an about-face 180-degree turn and refuse to move this forward. Thank you.
What's up? Thank you, Janda. All right, moving right along. We've got Michael Suski, Assistant Director of Policy at the New York Civil Liberties Union.
Good afternoon, everyone. So lost on none of this is the fact that this commission was also born out of a desire to undermine the council's ability to advance community safety legislation, including the recently passed How Many Stops Act. And look, the mayor had the right to disagree with the legislation. He was wrong on the substance of it and misrepresented what the law actually did. But the bill was the result of a democratic process that plays out as it has always done in New York City. It was introduced, had a robust hearing, and contrary to the implications of the Revision Commission's preliminary report, it underwent months and months of negotiations and input from the NYPD, who were at the table and had their say before it was eventually enacted over the mayor's veto. But now the mayor wants to rewrite the charter because he didn't get his way. And he wants to do it through a rushed, bad faith, opaque process. A process that is so rushed that it would be the second shortest charter revision commission going back nearly 40 years. Rewriting the rule books for local democracy because of policy disagreements with the legislature is dangerous. And beyond this reckless time frame, this process is designed for minimal engagement. The input sessions had been announced suddenly, barely publicized, poorly attended. New Yorkers would be forgiven for not knowing that a preliminary report was issued this week and was being voted on today. They'd be forgiven for not even knowing that this commission exists at all, because there's been so little outreach to the communities impacted by it. We know that they have to meet this August 5th deadline to finalize ballot language. But we know nothing about how they're actually going to determine what that language is and what the recommendations are. When will this commission issue its final report and make those recommendations? When will they vote on those recommendations? Will there be any real opportunity for New Yorkers to offer feedback on those recommendations before they are finalized into ballot language? All of that seems unlikely given the timeline, and it points to just how irresponsible this is as a matter of good governance. The city charter is the constitution of New York City. changes to it merit more than just a few weeks of an ill-thought-out process over the summer. If the commissioners are serious about their desire to revise the charter and suggest improvements to city government, then they should take the time necessary to do this process right, not rush to propose questions for this year's ballot just to satisfy the mayor's desire to score political points against the council. New Yorkers deserve better than this.
That's right.
Thank you, Michael. Next up, we have my sister in arms, Anam Aila, co-director of New York Working Families Party.
Woo!
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. So yesterday we had elections. Hundreds of thousands of people came out to vote, to use the power they have to elect their leaders. And that is the appropriate role for people. Now, what the mayor is trying to do with this rushed, undemocratic, deeply obscure charter revision process is to take away the power of New Yorkers to decide their future, to determine how they are governed. And he's doing it because the city council is trying to actually democratize how appointments happen in the city. Mayor Adams is so infatuated with his accumulation of power that he's actually failing to recognize that even if he wanted, he's not going to be the mayor forever, and it's actually New Yorkers who will continue to decide who governs them. And so this rush process is nothing but a power grab. It's nothing but a desire to hide, really, substantive questions that New Yorkers should be able to grapple with by making a charter process that people can participate in, creating events that people don't know about, and ultimately making recommendations that people don't have a voice in. The only reasonable, dignified thing to do is to stop right now. And just allow New Yorkers to have a real opportunity to decide how they will be governed. It is not too much to ask, quite frankly, for a mayor to not confuse the people he leads and to actually allow people to understand how the city will be governed, to engage with their city council members, to make demands of all of them and all of us, and to have a process that is easily understandable. None of that is happening right here, right now. Having a recommendation that comes out just weeks after the process started is obviously evidence that he's not interested in public, in the perspective of the public, and that he will do whatever he can to prevent a democratizing of the city of New York. Why? Why? Because it is actually in the interest of the very few, the wealthy and well-connected, to have a super powerful executive and have a weak council. Because the council is actually the body that listens and is elected by working class people all across the city. So the mayor is doing this because he likes power, but also because it serves the people who put him in power. And so we see it as for what it is, as a power grab, and we recognize that this process is a sham, and we are encouraging everyone to call the mayor and demand that he stops right here, right now.
Thank you, Ana Maria. Next up, we have Donovan Taveras, organizer with the Justice Committee.
Peace and good afternoon. My name is Donovan Taveras, and I'm the Community Safety Coordinator at the Justice Committee, an organization that works with families who have lost loved ones to police violence and survivors of police violence. Mayor Adams' Charter Revision Commission is a cowardly attempt to undermine the efforts of communities across the city, punish the city council for heeding New Yorkers' demand for police transparency, and increase the already outsized power of the NYPD and DOC. This process has been a sham from the start. With these rushed so-called public hearings for which outreach has been dismal, there has been no real participation from the public in this process, and when New Yorkers have been present, their voices have not been prioritized. Just last Thursday, at the CRC hearing on public safety, It took 2 hours before members of the public were allowed to testify.
That ain't right.
On top of this, Natasha Duncan, the sister of Chantel Davis, who was murdered by the NYPD in 2012, and Sammy Felice, the brother of Alan Felice, who was murdered by the NYPD in 2019, were both shamefully cut off and muted, while mouthpieces for the NYPD and the mayor were given extra time to wrap up their comments.
That ain't right.
That ain't right.
The disrespect, unaccountability, and abuse by the Adams administration gets clearer by the day. The mayor and the NYPD have no problem spinning lies about the How Many Stops Act.
Exactly.
But what they fail to acknowledge is that the How Many Stops Act was born out of feedback New Yorkers shared during the Floyd v. City of New York Stop and Frisk remedies process. It was fought for and won by a coalition of over 100 organizations, and it was passed through a democratic process, unlike this sham commission that has shown us that they have no interest in public testimony. The fact that the mayor is attempting to use this commission to give the NYPD more control over the legislative process when he continues to make devastating cuts to the CCRB and refuses to hold officers accountable for breaking the law and harming New Yorkers while taking out a $225 million loan to build a New York cop city is all too telling.
That ain't right.
Mayor Adams and the Charter Revision Committee have no interest in understanding the concerns of New Yorkers. Their only interest is to expand mayoral power and the power of the NYPD and limit the power of the city council and their constituents to pass common sense, good government laws regarding public safety. The only acceptable path forward is for this commission to recognize that this process is not democratic, not popular, and not fair, and must not end with any proposals on the November 2024 ballot. We cannot make changes to New York City's equivalent to a constitution without serious inquiry, testimony, and critique from the public. Thank you.
Donovan, why is it that I seem to be sweating more than everybody? Okay, just to show you we're not a rogue set of organizers, we've got someone from the city council here.
It's good to see you, Mark. It's good to be with you all.
There's a pull-out card.
You know, this Charter Revision Commission, I believe, has had 6 public hearings. They have 5 more planned, 11 total. The last Charter Revision Commission had 21 public hearings. The famous 1989 Charter Revision Commission had 30 public hearings. And when I went to one of the hearings last week and I testified, there were more representatives from our police unions and corrections unions than there were members of the public. Nobody's showing up at these meetings. Nobody even knows about it. As one of my colleagues said, is it a public hearing if the public ain't there? And what are they trying to sneak in to this Charter Revision Commission? And actually, you know, we've never had a Charter Revision Commission called this late in the year. Never, ever. This late in the year has a mayor convened a Charter Revision Commission that could so dramatically change how policies are made in New York City. There's no time. That's why there's no public engagement. That's why there's no meaningful input. That's why this process is rushed and in the shadows, because there's no time. We all know why the mayor created this Charter Revision Commission, because he didn't like the council providing oversight of him and his administration. That's right. That's all this is about.
Right.
Right? He doesn't like oversight at all. He's kicking the press out of Room 9. He kicked the press out of 1PP. He undermines and defunds the CCRB and the Board of Corrections, the entities that provide oversight of his agencies. And he's trying to stop the city council from doing its job. That's what he's about. He wants to run this city by fiat. But we're not going to let him. No, we don't. What this Charter Revision Commission's initial recommendations propose is to undermine the role of the city council. And I just want to say, as a council member, my office is on a storefront on Atlantic Avenue. Dozens of people walk in each and every day. We get hundreds of phone calls a week, emails every week, Facebook messages, Twitter messages, IG messages. The people of our district talk to us every single day. I am in touch with my constituents in real time. I don't go to the supermarket without hearing about an issue on the corner. And when people have an opinion about a bill in the city council, let me make sure you understand. They tell me. We hear from them in numbers. We're no faceless bureaucrats. We're not hiding in some city agencies. We are out there responding to our constituents and advocating and fighting for them every single day. And so when the mayor is trying to undermine the power of the city council, to hold public hearings, to write real laws, and to hold these agencies accountable, what he's really trying to do is undermine the people of New York City. Because we are the people's body. We are the folks that are out there channeling the members of New York, the people of New York City each and every day. We are proud to be the most diverse city council in the history of New York City. And we bring those diverse perspectives to our work each and every day at every hearing in the bills that we pass. This is our job. This is what we are about. That's not what the mayor wants. The mayor wants to just run things himself. He wants to stop the city council and stop the people of New York from being able to hold him accountable. But we're not going to let it. We're going to make sure that this Charter Revision Commission isn't just happening in the shadows. We're paying attention. We're holding him accountable. We're pushing back. Thank you, this coalition, for making it happen.
Thank you, Councilmember Ressler. So we're almost towards the end, and I guess at the end we will take some questions, or not. But no, but there are folks here you can come and approach individually. So last but certainly not least, I want to bring up Audrey C with Jayfridge Jews for Racial and Economic Justice.
Thank you, Councilmember Bretzer. I don't know if you're still here. My name is Audrey. I'm the Executive Director of Jews for Racial and Economic Justice, the largest grassroots organization of progressive Jews in New York. And we're here today because we believe in democracy, and we, all of us, believe in the people of New York City. Mayor Adams' rushed, nakedly political, half-assed Charter Revision Commission is an insult to both. And we demand that the mayor and commissioners acknowledge how inappropriate and absolutely ludicrous it is for them to place anything on the November ballot. From the January 6th insurrection to a presidential candidate who has vowed to use executive powers to wage a campaign of vengeance against his political rivals, to last night in Westchester in the Bronx, where we found out just how much it costs to buy an election in New York State. I think it is safe to say that our democracy has lately been weakened and terribly abused. The goal of a Charter Revision Commission should be to strengthen our city's democracy, not make a mockery out of it. Right. How else would you describe a commission that we've heard about that wants to rewrite our Constitution but is avoiding any input, any meaningful, or really any input from the people of New York? At their last meeting, I also heard in Staten Island, I think 5 people testified in an empty auditorium, and one of them was one of the commissioners. This is not how it's supposed to work. This is not it. We know it. Come on, people. The commissioners know it. The mayor absolutely knows it. It is an absolute naked power grab, and we are all witnessing it. And I thank this coalition for exposing it. The last thing New Yorkers need right now is more shady politics, shady, self-dealing, and inept autocratic power plays. We are tired of politicians bending and twisting the process of democracy to inflate their own power. It is bad for Jews, and it is bad for all of us, which is why we're here to say it is not too late, absolutely not, for the commissioners to change direction 180 and instead show the state, the nation, and the people of New York City what responsible, thoughtful, transparent governance should look like in a democracy. Nice. We must delay any ballot items until 2025 and do this right.
Woo!
Thank you. This concludes our remarks. I just want to thank everybody for making it out here today. Look, we all know that this is being done in the shadows, right? And we are literally bringing it into the daylight here. And we have to tell the mayor, we have to tell the commissioner, we have to tell the city that this is an abuse of power, all right? That this will not go down, this is undemocratic, and this is not going to happen on our watch. That's it. Thank you. If any questions,